Welcome back to the Friar Side chat. This is episode number 5, and it was a bad week. Let's not sugarcoat it. It was bad. Bad week to be a Padre fan. There's a lot of weeks like that, aren't there?
Do you still have hope?
It's dwindling, but yeah, a little bit.
A true Padre fan.
Yes. But it's honestly, it's funny. It's more because of other teams allowing us to stay in the race. That's what it is, more so than us like doing well.
Yeah, when you go 1-5 and you're only 4.5 games back, could be worse.
Yep, could be. But yeah, so as it stands, the Padres are now 55-60, which is tough because we're one game away, count it one, from 500, which like, doesn't seem that unattainable, but it is. Yet still only 4.5 games back in the wild card.
Yeah, no, it hurts. It feels like the Padres were about to stick a flag into the mountain to get back to 500, and a gust of wind came and blew them down the mountain again. And the wind being the Dodgers, and unfortunately, they slipped on the rock. That was the Seattle Mariners. How does that happen?
I don't know, man. I mean, I guess that's what happens when you run into, a good Dodger team.
Sure.
You know, like good teams. I think they demonstrated what good teams do, right? It was you're down 5-0.
Bounce back the next inning.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Mariners just been hot of late. I don't know, just watching the Padres-Mariners games the last 2 days, we have talked about how we don't think there's like a chemistry issue necessarily with the Padres, but at the same time, kind of like watching the Mariners a little bit, you know, I was just like watching the player interactions. They were having fun. You know what I mean? They were like, they do their little thing after the game. I don't know. There was just like little subtle things that I picked up on where I was like, these guys are just... They're in a much better, I don't know, headspace, which is understandable. But
Well,
there's definitely something that's in there, you know?
Yeah, but they haven't gone through the same trial and tribulations that the Padres have, because if you go back just even this year, what were the Padres doing after every win? Hitting a piñata with a team dancing to music. So, that's in this team, but you can't be dancing around hitting a piñata when you're underperforming the way they are. So, I don't think the Seattle Mariners have better chemistry, but the Padres just haven't put themselves in a position to have quote-unquote fun. It's business now.
Yeah.
Like, rent is due. You can't go out to the club.
Right. Yeah, it's a weird balance, right? Because, yes, it is business, not getting the job done, but at the same time, it's, you know, you can feel, especially with the offense, I feel like they're tense. You can just tell. I don't feel like they're having great at-bats. I mean, they've strung together, I think, like 6 or 7 hits over the last 2 games and scored 1 run. And that 1 run was only Ha-Seong Kim's base running.
Yep.
That's literally the only run that scored.
Yeah, we got to remember they're human. I mean, and that's the hardest part, because as a fan, you're pulling your hair out going, why can't these figure it out?
Yeah.
And, they feel that too, tenfold. Right. And it takes a special type of person to be able to handle that pressure. And we have superstars who have handled a lot of pressure, but it feels like it's compounding day after day, and it gets harder. We've played baseball. Yeah. When you're slumping, and it keeps getting worse and worse, sometimes you need somebody to come in and just tell you it's going to be all right, and they don't have that. They've got media reporters coming in saying,
what's wrong?
How deflating is it that this has happened again? And you're like, oh, yeah, that is deflating. Yeah. Putting words in their mouth.
So what is it then? Is it like one of the leaders really needing to step it up on a performance scale? You know, is it a Machado, a Soto, Tatis? Like, do they just need to go on a absolute heater to get the boys fired up? Or
I like that take, because I think that there are times where one player is carrying a team. We saw it with Machado. We've seen Tatis do it before. And sometimes that heroic move of carrying the team just takes the pressure off of everybody else. But we're at a part of the year where it's like, that's a big ask. I mean, this is a season's worth of failures coming to a head, and I think it's going to take more than one guy, and I think it's going to take them getting more than 4 wins in a row.
No.
I think if they can go on a 8-run stretch of wins, we will make the playoffs. That's my mark. That's what they need to do is
an 8-run stretch.
An 8-run stretch, because that will get the monkey off your back, and it's not getting the monkey off by 1. A 4-win series doesn't work.
Right.
5, no. 6, you're like, wow, we're really doing it. 7, holy crap, we're doing it. 8, what was that in the rearview mirror? I don't know, but we just won 8, and you're completely out of the woods.
I mean, that'd be awesome. And it is possible. Like, we're seeing it with the Rangers right now.
Yep.
Pretty sure they're on their 8th win. I think they just won 8 after getting swept by a super frustrated Padre team.
Exactly.
You know, so it's like, it can happen. And luckily, too, I'm pretty sure we have like a pretty long home stretch coming up. It's like 6 games at home and then 3 in Arizona or something. Is that right? I don't know. I'll have to look at it. But a lot of home games coming up. Padres do like to play at home.
Yeah.
As we've talked about. So maybe that's what they need. Maybe they just need some of that home,
hometown cooking.
Home cooking. Yeah, exactly.
They better be careful. If they keep losing games like this, it's not going to be home cooking. It's going to be home kicking in the asses.
Yeah.
They're going to get booed.
For sure. So let's kind of going off of performance a little bit more. I pulled the numbers on how are the new Padres doing, right? Like that's an interesting question.
I'm sure they're doing really good. Tell me how great they're doing.
Okay, granted, right? Take it all with a grain of salt because we get it. Like
Small
new
sample
city. Yeah, small sample size, new city. Obviously can't expect them to be perfect, but it's just like not great. So I'll start with the hitters. All right, let's look at it's G-Man Choi and Garrett Cooper since August 1st, being the trade deadline. Choi is 0 for 9, no RBIs, 5 walks, so that's a 357 on-base percentage, scored 3 runs, serviceable defense, but, not a lot going on.
Not great.
Offense. And then Garrett Cooper, 1 for 8, no RBIs, no walks, 1 run scored. So combined, they're 1, and we're not big batting average guys. We don't buy into the whole batting average thing all the time. However, 1 for 17 is tough.
That says something. I mean, Brandon Dixon and company who got let go.
Matt Batten was going 3 for 4 against the Rockies, etc.
Right, and they're not better. I'm not saying they're better players than who we got, but
No.
we're getting the production that they can also get. And that's where it hurts a little bit more because you're giving up prospects and such. But we have not lost faith in the guys that have come over, but it is definitely a hard pill to swallow when they're not helping you and they're hindering you, and it's on a 1-5 skid.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. And then let's look at the pitchers real quick, too. So Scott Barlow has thrown 4 2/3 innings. He's given up 9 earned runs, which puts his ERA at 17.36, and he's a 2.57 whip.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that coming.
His first outing was so good. He looked so
Crisp.
good. He was dotting sliders on the corners, had a good confidence about him. We had talked about he seemed like he had a really good mindset heading in, but just hasn't, since that first outing, hasn't looked great. He's a better pitcher than that, but
he is. Haven't lost faith in him. What are your thoughts on Honeywell leaving or being sent away? He was someone who I thought was overperforming.
Yeah,
but I thought he had a purpose.
I liked, in the offseason when they got him, I was actually kind of excited just because I think I remember him being on the Rays, and he was a top prospect, and he was kind of this guy I was almost not expecting, but I was hoping for a Nick Martinez 2.0.
Yeah.
I was looking for a guy who could fill a lot of roles out of the bullpen or give you a spot start. Who knows? And he, kind of did fill that, but he just, I don't know.
Can you pull up his stats real quick while I go through this thought?
Let's see.
I just feel like there were better players that we could have sent down, away, etc. Mm-hmm. I felt like he was still being very serviceable for the Padres.
Yeah.
But what's the stat line this year?
Let's see. I've got the hitting stats up. Team pitching. 2023 team pitching.
This would be a nice cutaway where you look at my face and then go.
So Brent Honeywell Jr. He had a 4.05 ERA. How many innings? 46 innings. He pitched a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. 21 earned runs. 20 watt. What's his whip? 137 whip.
Not great, not bad.
103 ERA plus. So
what's his record? I'm just curious. I know that's not a big thing with relief pitchers, but I'm just curious.
2-4.
Yeah. Not
so he didn't do bad, honestly. It's kind of just honestly, looking through those stats, it's kind of just league average.
Exactly.
Serviceable.
But he also could go for longer innings. He could come in a high leverage situation. It's not who your ideal pick is, but he could do it. There's certain pitchers in our bullpen that I would not put in a high leverage situation. I wouldn't put Garcia. I wouldn't put Garcia there. It's just one of those things.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. And then let's go back to...
Is Garcia getting better, by the way? I don't know if it's just because he's been doing mop-up duty. He's the garbage man or the janitor that just goes in.
Yeah, I don't know.
But he hasn't looked as bad. I keep saying, oh my God, he's warming up, but he hasn't done bad.
He pitched when they were down by 5 or something, and he did fine, I think.
Yeah, I think
he
he's
walked
slowly
a couple
turning
guys
around.
Still, maybe so. hopefully.
We'll see.
A good Luis Garcia would be awesome.
I just hear all the hate on him, and I agree with a lot of it. But then I started to really think about it. I'm like, his last couple outings, I know he's been going in and where the leverage is 0, but like I don't remember him being terrible in those.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I have to keep an eye on that for sure. And then and then Rich Hill is our other new acquisition. We all know how that start went.
Grandpa Hill.
3 innings, 6 earned runs. That's a 27 ERA and a 6 WHIP.
He needs some new Depends diapers for Grandpa Hill.
That's one star. I'm going to give him let's give him 3 starts. And if it becomes, right, because what do they say? It's 1 is 1, 2 is a coincidence, and 3 is a trend or something.
Yeah, I'll give him one more. And when your first outing's that bad, I'm not giving you the ball 3 times to do it. If he does it the second time.
If the second one is as bad as the first one, which I was like, there's no shot. There's a shot.
It cracked me up. They're like, it's his shortest outing of the year. I'm like, awesome. Thank you.
Perfect.
So happy that happened here.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But also a big ask. I mean, you're going against the Dodgers. That's not the easiest make an impression opponent.
Okay, here's an interesting question for you, right? So as we've just reviewed, all of our acquisitions who are getting playing time are not playing well. And again, small sample size, but it's very clear, not playing well.
Yeah.
And it's very different, obviously, Major League Baseball, the top competition, moving cities, you have to move your family, the whole thing. So there's other aspects that we've never gone through. But I feel like, we have played a lot of travel ball. We've played a lot of, switching colleges, things like that nature. And at least for me, and you can tell me if you had a similar experience or not, but I don't know, whenever I came to a new team or a new college or whatever it was, the little chip on your shoulder, you feel like there's something to prove. I'm the new guy. These guys don't know what I got. They don't know my skills. They wouldn't back me up necessarily my older teammates would do.
Yeah.
And so in those instances, I don't know, I felt like I could just kind of turn it up to another gear sometimes.
Yep.
And again, it might not have been strictly the statistics that stood out, but there's a little extra fire, and we saw a little bit last year, right? Brandon Drury's first at bat as a Padre, right?
That was dope,
right? And again, that was, a one-off probably. But is there any, I just want to hear your take on that.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I agree with you. I think anytime you go to a new organization, the natural human element is to prove yourself. Mm-hmm. It's not always, for some people, it's a chip on the shoulder. I think Brandon Drury had a little bit of that because they were talking about Soto and all these other pieces that were coming, and his name was such an afterthought. Yeah. Then he comes up in his first at-bat, hits a grand slam. Yeah. But at the same time, yes, there's a piece of you that always wants to prove your worth. Some guys don't have that gene in them, and they tend to actually transition better than most because sometimes when you try to prove yourself, you press and you do stuff that you wouldn't normally do or just added pressure, which isn't great. But that could be happening for sure. I think in the case of Choi especially, it's I think he already has connected with the team and they like him. He has that coming with him. Everyone has said, what a great clubhouse guy.
Right.
But he has that low 200 average that he's I'm sure he would tell you that's not as good as he can hit. So it's okay, I want to prove them that I'm better than 200, 220, whatever it is. And now he's batting, below 200?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just not ideal. But I agree with you. I think people try to prove themselves every time they go somewhere new.
Yeah.
In work, too.
Right.
Anywhere.
And I guess so speaking of performance, and you brought up a point there, kind of pressing and, trying to overdo it a little bit.
Right.
In yesterday's game, Tatis had, defensively, he made an incredible throw to second base to get a guy out, but then he also made some pretty stupid throws.
That one throw.
Back to first base. I get it, but at the same time, it's come on, he's not going anywhere, and the odds that you get him are very low. And then that ultimately led the base runner to get a second, and that was the only run that scored for Darvish, and he wouldn't have scored had he just not made the throw.
100%. But Tatis is not that player, right? He will get you those outs where normally an outfielder doesn't throw that ball, and he can do it. Mm-hmm. That ball, when we break down that play, he threw that ball in. Was it a little offline? Sure. Yeah. But it hit the guy's cleats as he slid into first with his legs up. So it one-hopped into his cleat, kicked off the cleat, went to the dugout. So that's a fluke. That's a freak thing. Where
I would say it's a fluke, but like he's thrown away other balls. We've seen it in the.
He also he's up there with the league leaders in outfield assists.
Yeah, that's true.
So
but I guess my point is that one, and you actually mentioned I think earlier in the year, like guys are still running on him because they're still figuring out can he actually throw guys out.
Yeah,
right. And then two, he doesn't have that. He'll just throw it. So, of course, you're going to get more assists, if you're the guy who's going to throw the ball.
I think his pros outweigh his cons so far in his throwing decisions, and I think he's actually learned a lot. There's been numerous opportunities where he could throw the ball all the way home or throw it low to the cutoff, and earlier on he was throwing it all the way home because he had the arm strength and wanted to throw someone out when it was ill-advised. Yeah. Now he's hitting his cutoff and keeping it low. So he is learning. I don't think yesterday's game is indicative of like, oh, he is just being a gunslinger.
Yeah.
I think that was a fluke, and I think that I take Tatis's extra effort to get those outs over him playing reserved and not being happy because this is a guy that's used to touching the ball every couple plays at shortstop, and now he's in the outfield.
I get my one shot again.
He wants to put his teeth into it. So
and to be fair, it's interesting, right? It's like, are you bringing more value by the outs that you do get?
Yep.
Or like if a guy gets one extra base, like how often is that the deciding run?
Exactly.
So I'm not against his Jensen. It was just it was just something I was thinking.
It hurt him there. I mean, that was an example where it did hurt because, like you said, you was pitching really well. That's the only run he gave up, and it was I don't want to say entirely because things happen in baseball after other events, but. Yeah, you put him in a scoring position with no outs. Mm-hmm. You don't want to do that as an outfielder. Yeah. And it bit him in the butt. The run came across.
Yeah. And so let's keep on the Tatis train here. You and I were talking about, we both read that article AJ Cassavell wrote, Padres beat writer.
We read it very differently, though.
Kind of. Yeah. I don't know. Okay. So I'll just pull out some of the key points. So since the All-Star break, Tatis has been hitting 172. But his expected batting average based off of StatCast, which is so exit velo, launch angle, all the statistics essentially, has him hitting 270. So it's a very different reality, I suppose, that we see there. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And so at least my take is just that I think, sure, obviously, we talked about there were some great plays being made on him. Outman and Julio Rodriguez both robbed you of a home run in the same week. Like, that sucks.
Real quick.
That's bad luck.
That home run by Julio Rodriguez that he robbed, StatCast had that as hit probability being over 98%.
Of course.
Over 98%. So the people who are all freaking out be like, oh, he pimped an out or, he's swinging for the fences. Like, dude, that was a line drive home run that got robbed. Like, that's a hit. 98% of the time, that's a hit. So I don't want to hear it. But anyways, go on. Sorry.
So ultimately, like, what I took away from it is it's like, yes, I think he has run into some bad luck. Mm-hmm. But at least what I've been seeing from watching the games too is I guess I've seen kind of a deterioration in his approach. At least from what I can tell. To me it seems like, he's hitting the ball really hard. The stats tell us this. We watch the games. You can tell he's still like hitting the cover off the ball. Sure. Getting unlucky. And I think it's, we as much as we want to say, like, oh, I know what real success is, and I'm hitting the ball hard, and those are all the things that he's saying, right, in the press conferences. But it's, in my mind, it's still getting to him. And
how does it not?
Been there before. But I started seeing it in his at-bats lately, I think. We saw it in his first at-bat yesterday. I think it was 3 fastballs out of the zone, swing, including the last one where he
got sworded.
Horrible.
Yep.
And that's, we know that's not the type of player he is. He's just pressing, Yeah. And that's just how it is. So I think for him it's mental right now. I think he's just all in his head.
And I'll take it away. So the stat that you gave where he's supposed to be hitting 270, his realistic at that time was 117. That point differential between expected batting average versus real batting average is the largest of the entire MLB. Every player that is hitting right now in that sample size, he has the largest disparity between those two numbers, which means the largest amount of unluckiness.
No.
And it's not all just based off of luck, but numbers back up and support the fact that he has been unlucky. And for any person who's going through that, he knows what that stat is.
Right.
He's seen that report, I guarantee it. When you know that you are the most quote-unquote unlucky hitter in the league at the moment, how does that not get in your head? And it takes a really strong individual mentally to not let it.
Yeah.
And of all the players, I feel like he's really handled the slump as good as he can while still being human.
Yeah.
Like you said, in the post-game conferences, he's saying, I'm hitting the ball hard. I got to keep working hard. It'll come. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be like that. Internally, I would be losing my mind over the fact that I'm hitting 100 plus off the bat and getting out consistently. His strikeout numbers are not up.
Right.
If anything, historically, his strikeout numbers are down from what he's normally doing when he's going right. So you're getting a guy who's hitting the ball hard, striking out less, but getting worse results.
Yeah.
How does that make anyone feel? Not great. And it's starting to show because it's been over a month.
Yeah.
So he's human. I believe in Tatis. I don't like all the hate he's getting with people saying he's swinging for the fences because he's absolutely not. He's going the other way. How many in Colorado series line drives the other way in the gap? Getting caught. These guys are catching his fly balls and their line drives too. So I defend Tatis pretty hard on these things because people who don't play the game or don't watch every game think that he's just swinging for fences or he's not doing what he should be doing or he's not being interested in the team. No, the dude's going through his worst slump in his career at a time when his team needs him.
Right.
And he's doing the right things but not getting the results.
Yeah.
Keep a smile on your face doing that. Somehow he still does. So I defend Tatis.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. One thing I'm interested, I would like to look more into that StatCast, how they calculate that too, and I'm sure it's way statistically over our level of comprehension.
I think do you want me to just tell you what I think it is?
Sure.
I think they do exit velo, launch angle, and compare all balls that have been hit at that or at that exit velo, at that angle to each direction.
Right.
And how many of those result in hits versus not. They have all that data.
Right.
And then it's like, if it's not, then you just take that versus all that have, and that's how you get that average.
But what about, does that account for scouting reports?
No.
Right. So
No,
I guess
this
so
is
that's where
general.
I'm like, we said, maybe he's the most unlucky player in baseball, but it's like for me, what if he just has the most dialed in scouting report?
I don't remember
as a
him hitting
defense?
the opposite field as much as he has lately. I think he's actually gone against his scouting report.
But you see, that's why I would want to see it. But
Yeah.
I always remember him he always hit home runs out to right field. I remember back in his 43 home run season, I remember the one in Texas, and everyone was like, that was an absolute bomb to opposite field, et cetera. So it's like, I don't know. And maybe, I don't know.
Part of this feels like an anomaly.
I just think, it's like maybe it's unlucky, maybe it's better scouting. Who knows? It's 2023 Padres is happening to is what's going on. I think.
You made a great point off
chalk it up.
camera that a lot of his scouting report is throw fastballs up and in, throw sliders low and away. And the reason we've seen that for over a year now is because it's been effective.
Right.
Now, once he's able to address that scouting report, I think teams are going to have to go back to the drawing board, and it's going to be scary for them.
Yeah.
Because we see every team pitch him this way now.
Yeah.
He's still not bad. I mean, he's still putting balls in play. He's still, let's take this slump out of it. He's found a way to be a very productive big leaguer.
Well,
hitting
he
bombs.
was, everyone kind of agreed he was snubbed at the All-Star game.
Yep.
Like everyone was like, yeah,
exactly.
snubbed. So he was having a great year, and now he's in a little slump. Happens.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. But yeah, the media does seem, I was seeing all kinds of stuff. People were saying like, oh, look what's happened with no pads. I'm like, okay.
Not a chance, dude. It has nothing to do with that.
So anyways, people just, they like the clickbait and what have you. But anyways, so moral of the story, he is, he's just in an unfortunate slump.
He's going to figure it out.
But yeah.
We love Tatis.
I agree. Yeah, very high on him still. Let's talk about some of the roster moves. And we talked about Honeywell a little bit earlier, but there's some other ones here. I think these are really relevant. So Padres brought back Jose Azocar after being injured and being in the minor leagues. And so this was a guy who I was, as you know, I wasn't ever super high on him. I've kind of always been high on him, and I was like, okay, whatever, dude. And then now going through this season and then seeing kind of, some of these other options that we've had for a fourth outfielder or a utility guy, I'm pumped. Back, dude.
He's a cheap utility piece. He's amazing, and they like him. Sugar, as they call him.
Yeah.
Good base runner. Can steal you a bag, can pinch run, can play a very good defensive outfield, and can hit for average. Above average for a bench piece that's not playing every day.
Yep.
I like him.
Yeah. I am happy to have him back for sure. Who else we got? Waka Waka made a rehab start in AAA, did well.
What's his pitch count up to? What did he go up to there? You know?
I'm not sure. I think they said it was like between 40 to 60. I don't know. I think that's what they said. And then allegedly he was going to start working in some simulated innings at Petco this week. So reports are saying he should be back in like about a week. And hopefully he comes back in Waka form because the Padres need that in a bad way.
Waka.
Exactly. So Waka, please keep the health going. What else? Tim Hill, finger injury. He should be throwing again this week, they said, and then should be back in the pen by the end of the month.
I could use some Tim Hill.
Little tweaker Tim.
When tweaker Tim's going right, it's awesome.
Yeah,
he has that in him.
Lefty matchups. I would not want to hit him if I was a lefty.
No, and he has it in him. He's had really good runs. He has some really bad stretches too. But we've seen Tim Hill come in and shut the door on teams. He can be good.
Yeah, he's a good middle or specialty reliever.
Yep.
Okay, and then of course the big one, Joe Musgrove. I wasn't able to find a ton of like super updated reports because they're being vague about it a little bit.
That's never good.
Yeah, and the last article that I was reading yesterday said, expected return late 2023 season or worst case 2024.
I think it's going to be 2024, dude. I know he wants to be there. I think if we make a playoff push, he's going to do everything in his power to try and be a part of that. But, dude, I don't think he's coming back this year.
Or if he does, he'll, come back for a start and then be like, oh, this was a bad idea. Yeah. Shut down anyway. Especially because it's if we look back at last year's playoffs, you become if you're not a workhorse, you become one in the postseason.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so if you're kind of battling through an injury there, I just don't see that being good.
We're at a crossroads right now in season and expectations where it's like, all right, is it possible that we make the playoffs? And if we do, what does that playoff team look like? Yeah. I mean, our 1, 2, 3 pitchers, take Musgrove out of it. Mm-hmm. Who is it? Darvish, Snell, Lugo, or Waka? Yeah. Put that up against the other top teams. Then you're starting to ask yourself, is it realistic to try and win those? Right, and it's like, well, obviously we want to and make the push. No one's going to. We'll take the ticket to the dance. But
when you put it that way, it's kind of similar to last year. When you get to the longer series, you become even more disadvantaged, right?
Exposed.
Right. Because it's in the wild card, short playoff games. You're competitive. You're right there because you have those 2, maybe 3 guys who can give you really good outings. But then, right, you get to even the 5-game series, right? It's even then, you might be able to roll out, on a 3 starter. Who knows? But
it's been done.
You might be exposed, is all I'm getting at there.
But even then, your 3 is Waka or Lugo.
Mm-hmm. Which, could be worse.
At their could be worse, but it's not ideal. It's not ideal for an already not ideal season. So
short leash with a Martinez looming potentially.
I'm already putting it out there. If we make the playoffs, Martinez is our X factor pitcher.
You think so?
It'll take multiple things great coming out of him, whether that be the spot start in a game 4 or 5, or the long relief after someone poops the bed.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, what if because they already have used him twice as a spot start. Johnny All-Staff guy. Dude. But it's right, what if you take that approach? What if you start extending Martinez's workload?
They're thinking about it.
Transition Hill to be the long relief guy. Sorry, Rich Hill. We got 2 Hills now.
Yeah, Rich Hill.
Right, he could be the long relief guy. Right, innings eater if you're up big or down big.
Those conversations are happening. They talked about that with Nick Martinez on the broadcast. They had him on the headset, and they asked him, are you going to be going into full starter mode, not just trying to get 3 innings? Are you going to try and go 5, 6, 7?
Yeah.
And he said he's up for it. He's built his body to go 200 innings, and that's his plan. But right now it's about lengthening it out, and they might ask him to do that with the results of Musgrove. So we don't know yet.
Interesting. Lots cooking.
Yeah.
Nick Martinez
Stir in the pot.
The guy, though. Okay. So before we kind of wrap things up and go into our look ahead, which we usually kind of end these off with, there was one kind of story a little bit outside of baseball, still involved with the Padres, that I just wanted to share with you. I just thought it was cool. Thought might get a little wider range of interest from viewership. So there's a little bit of cool just transcendence in sports this last week. Yes. So as you know, last weekend I went to the U.S. Open of surfing in Huntington Beach. As surfing is my number 2 sport, probably my second favorite,
sport,
or right up there. Oh, watch it, guy. Anyways, so So there was a kid from San Clemente who qualified. Basically, he got far enough in this tournament to qualify for the championship tour.
Right.
So he's going to be surfing next year with, like the Kelly Slaters, John Florence, like the big names in surfing, right?
Who?
I know. Who's that guy? But anyways, I don't know the exact story. I don't know who all was involved, but I saw that he was actually invited by the Padres. It seemed like some combination of the Padres. Joe Musgrove's name was thrown in there, and then a couple of like local surfer, like former pro guys. Right. Rob Machado, who lives in Encinitas, he was a big-time surfer back in the day. Some combination of that group basically got him come in. He threw the first pitch against the Dodgers on Friday. And then what was also kind of cool was, so they're hyping him up there, but then during the broadcast for the surf contest, the commentators, one of them was from San Diego, but they started like calling the surf heats similar and like using a bunch of baseball analogies. How funny. I was like, what? That's so cool. Because like the guy was saying, so like, for example, the final heat came down like of the competition.
Bottom of the ninth.
Yeah, one surfer, literally like the horn sounded. He took like the first wave of the heat and scored a 9 out of 10. And it was like, whoa. They're like, oh, that's how you start a heat. And they're like, for those of you who aren't, super familiar, he's like, that would be the equivalent of like playoff game. You hit a leadoff homer against Max Scherzer. And that's like, they were like throwing stuff in there.
How fun.
During the broadcast. And I was like, well, this is awesome because those are my two favorite
Your two
sports.
Loves. Yeah.
And they were, there was just that crossover. And it just seemed, it was just really cool. So I just wanted to share. I just thought it was cool.
Go watch more surf videos.
Yeah, I want to see more of that, honestly. I love when, different sports and everything will just transcend, and combine, because that's how, you broaden your scope and you bring in people and you find more interests, and, someone who is Padre fan might be like, hey, let's check out the surf stuff, or vice versa. The surfers might be like, oh, Padres are cool.
Padres are cool.
Except that they are cool. Except that they crush our spirit every year. But, anyways.
We got to recruit more people to share our pain.
Yeah, so just wanted to share that. I thought it was cool. I had a lot of fun with it.
I need you to start doing more research on who's throwing out the first pitch. That was fun.
Yeah, it was cool, right? I know you love your nuggets and your fun facts. So
I love fun facts. I'm sad that I don't have Snapple caps anymore to read off.
It's a good one.
Awesome. Well,
cool.
What's the look ahead?
Yeah, so look ahead. So we've got Padres are off today, of course, being Thursday. But then they go on a long stretch, but I'm not going to go too far on the forward. We got 3 games at home against Arizona. Big, because they're huge ahead of us in the wild card. Huge game. You can make up a lot of ground.
And floundering.
Yes, 1-9 in their last 10, I think.
Yep.
So that's a huge series. Then Baltimore is coming to town right after that. Good, young, probably playoff team. So that'll be an exciting one. Good test.
In first place, I think, too.
Yeah, I think so.
Pretty cool.
And then in Arizona for 4. And so that's all back to back to back. There's no breaks in there.
I love it.
So that's big.
I love it. I think when you're going on a run, the last thing you need is a day off until you're close to the end of that run.
Right.
Sometimes you just need to carry that momentum. When you go on a winning streak, like think of tournament baseball. When you're the number 1 seed and you get that bye, and that first team showed up at the field at 9 a.m. to play the 10 a.m., then they roll it into the 1 p.m., and you're coming off of your big breakfast, sitting and watching the game. They're coming off of that win.
Yeah.
Who has the advantage there? I don't know if it's always the team with the break. So I like having momentum. I like having this mindset of we're on a mission. We don't need any time to think about it. We know we just got to do it. Let's go do it. Yep. So I like that stretch. I think it'll be fun.
Yep. I think so. And like you said, it's against some of the right teams, because I think after that, and again, I just said I wasn't going to go too far ahead of myself, but I believe it's the Marlins after that too. So another team in the wild card. So this next week or 2 stretch, it might be make or break.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think it's safe to say, actually, at this point. We've kind of been,
on
tiptoeing it, but I think it is.
If you lose 2 series to the Diamondbacks, you're kind of out of it, because you've given them a lot of room. Every loss is worth 2. Every win's worth 2 with them, and they're so close to us. It's really going to be tough to come back from that if they don't do well. So. I'm not saying make or break yet, but it's as close as it gets to it without it being. Because they still have that back half.
Break, I think. But I'm talking 2 weeks, though. I'm talking, talking
with Miami
Arizona,
included?
Baltimore, Arizona, Miami.
Okay, yeah.
That stretch is make or break.
It is.
So we'll see.
We agree.
Stay tuned. We'll see. But yeah, that does it for this week. Thank you again to everybody who's checking it out, and have a good week, and let's go Pods.
Go Pods.
Later.